How's it going, sports gamers? Mike Straw, managing editor, Sports Gamers Online here to talk more Madden 22 ratings with our resident Madden ratings and analytics guru, Verts. We had quarterback ratings today, and this is the one that's going to get the most debate out of everybody because everybody's in love with their own team's quarterback and wondering why one guy isn't as high, and I feel like this is going to be more controversial than the running back ratings.
Yeah, I feel like you could even chime in here on controversy and maybe a disagreement somewhere on this list. I don't know.
There's one, and it's not the one that many probably think of, knowing that I'm a Bills fan, because I fully expected Josh Allen to be where he is. But we're going to start at the top. We're going to go down. We're going to give our thoughts. No surprise, Pat Mahomes, number one, the last member of the 99 Club. He's just been dominant the last few years. It makes no sense to take him out of it and put him down.
Yeah, when you look at Mahomes, he really is a do-it-all guy, right? That 97 throw power, second only to Josh Allen. He's got some movement to him, right? Like, he's not super fast, 81 speed, 87 acceleration, so he can move a little bit. I'm actually a little surprised that maybe not a little bit faster, but I'm not sure he's actually fast, maybe a little more shifty and fluid than fast. 96 throw under pressure, though. People sometimes take for granted throw under pressure in Madden because that's really when you see those really errant passes, it's because of that throw under pressure, how close people are getting to your guy. So that 96 basically makes that so it doesn't really matter to him. Then 98 throw on the run, that is what Mahomes does, right? He slings it as he's rolling out.
And yeah, the throw on the run, I mean, you look at him even with the bum foot in Cleveland before he got knocked out of that game last year, or against Cleveland last year. The escapability that he has and the ability to keep going on one leg kind of proves why his throw on the run should be as high as it is. He might not be happy that his throw power is less than Josh Allen. I mean, they go back and forth constantly over who can throw the furthest. I'm still waiting for that at a Pro Bowl weekend skills competition.
Weren't they throwing it out of a stadium last year? Like, they were taking turns, like, throwing them.
Yeah,
there were videos of them throwing it out of the stadium.
We don't have proof of the ball landing outside the stadium, though. So until I get that end of it, until I get the full view of it, I don't believe either of them that they can throw it out of the stadium. Number two, we have the quarterback that seems to have the most red on your graphic here that's on screen right now for everybody. He's got the lowest numbers across the board in quite a bit, but he's still arguably the best quarterback of all time and the second best quarterback in Madden 22, and it's Tom Brady, fresh off his seventh Super Bowl. He's got that 99 awareness, 99 injury, 99 stamina, 99 short accuracy, 99 pass accuracy. Can he do no wrong even with some of these ratings being as low as they are?
Yeah, so it's physical, right? He's in the pocket. He's not going to make anybody miss outside. I almost find the 31 broken tackle kind of comical, right? You touch him, he's falling down, which is true in real life, right? He gets down and usually tries to avoid getting hit at all. I actually found the 87 throw under pressure to be interesting, and that, maybe comes back to that comment I just made about him just falling down. But I do think it's interesting that I think that's going to affect him more than people think. So why he is a 97 and he does have all those great accuracies, the 99, the 97, the 93, and the 99 play action, that 87 throw under pressure probably would create a little bit of concern for me if I was going to use Tom Brady in a franchise. I know the debate between Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers was a big one we've seen online. So I get it, right? I think the 99 awareness, and some of the 99s in accuracy is probably what pulled Brady up. But when you look at the athleticism that Rodgers has, he's still probably the better option to play with.
I personally, you talked about might concern some people for using him in franchise. For me, once a quarterback hits a certain age, I don't care what their overall is or what their ratings are. I stop using them in franchise. Usually it's about 37, 38. Because I've had too many guys, even at 32 in my franchise modes, retire out of nowhere. And I'm kind of tired of it happening.
Well, this year they can retire in the middle of the year.
Yeah, and
that's a new scenario.
I had Julio Jones do it to me.
Yeah.
Which, that's fun. Having Julio Jones come out and go, trade me, basically. That's how I equated it. He's just like, I'm gone. Okay, good for you. Thanks for ruining my chances. My number one receiver. Thanks, I appreciate it. Number 3, 96 overall, the defending MVP, Aaron Rodgers. A lot of people were mad that he didn't come in at least at number 2 behind Mahomes, but I'm like, at the end of the day, he didn't win a Super Bowl.
Yeah, I see that argument, but at the same time, this isn't a Super Bowl's rating. This is a player rating, right? And I think we'll see that, in various ratings throughout that there's plenty of guys on bad teams that, they're rated pretty high. So I get that argument, but at the same time, I would be hard pressed to say if I took Tom Brady and I took Aaron Rodgers and I put them both on an equally bad team, right? Let's not talk about all-star lineups. Let's not talk about, the receiving core they have in Tampa Bay. But if we put them on equally bad teams, let's say we took both those guys and put them on the New York Jets, right? Like, who's going to get more out of that team? I tend to think Aaron Rodgers would get more out of that team than Tom Brady would.
Me too, because he can move. And he's going to need to be moving in order to get help or do anything behind that line.
But so, I would also argue that Aaron Rodgers did pretty well last year with receivers that weren't nearly as good as Tom Brady. So, again, that's one of those things that I think, depending who you talk to, there's good debate there to be had. Comparing him to Brady, right? The 95 throw under pressure, I just talked about that. That's something I'd be much more inclined to lean towards. The 95 throw on the run versus Brady's 84. Brady's not really throwing on the run. Rodgers can do that, though. So I like that. You start getting more of a Mahomes feel with Rodgers. That 90 medium accuracy, a little low than I would have guessed. But overall, obviously, Rodgers still a very good prospect. And I would take him over Brady.
I kind of would too, but I'm also a big time Rodgers fan. So, and I just love how real he is off the field as well. Like, people kind of complaining about it, but nope, give me that all day. Number 4, Russell Wilson, 94 overall. This was a guy that started out the year hot, like MVP front runner, and then kind of came back down to earth as the rest of the team did, the Seahawks did towards the end of the year. Any surprise that he's not a bit higher than 94, or is that kind of a perfect spot for him with what he has and what he can do?
Yeah, I mean, I could argue a point or two, right? Could he have been a 95 maybe? Sure. I mean, you can make those arguments, but he's kind of like a nice blend here, right? So you get that 91 acceleration, 85 speed. So he's got a little bit of juice, some 92 agility. You start getting into some of the other things, though. The 92 throw power is definitely a fallback from what we saw like a Mahomes or even an Aaron Rodgers, right? 92 seems to be like that elite level, but just towards the bottom of it. Like I said, he's got some ability to break sacks, 94. Throw under pressure, 94. So, if you look across the board, you feel really, really good about Russell Wilson. I think the only thing that probably keeps him lower than, say, like an Aaron Rodgers is that 91 awareness. And for users, that's not something most people really care about. So you could easily say, just from a pure use it standpoint, right? Like who's more usable? I'd probably take Russell Wilson, maybe ahead of anybody not named Patrick Mahomes.
Oh, agreed. And Russell Wilson, like you talked about, I mean, his 96 throw on the run, he's like a Patrick Mahomes. Seattle didn't give him help. They never give him help behind the offensive line. And he's got to do a lot with his feet. And there's a lot of Madden players who like to just, the second they snap the ball, scramble outside the pocket, whether it works for them or not. And if you're going to be that type of player, then a Mahomes or a Wilson are arguably your best bets in order to find any sort of success. That, especially at Wilson's still a young guy. Like, it's weird. He's been in the league as long as he has, almost a decade at this point, but he's still a young guy in the grand scheme of things, and he still plays like he's a young guy. Speaking of young guys, number 5, Lamar Jackson, 91 overall, ended his season in a way that no one wanted to see. Even though as a Bills fan, I'm happy the Bills beat the Ravens. Seeing him leave injured it made that end of the game very anticlimactic. But the hope is he's still a great quarterback, and he comes back and has an even bigger season. And in franchise mode, he's a guy that, for me, it'd be hard pressed for me to not want him on my team.
This is actually one of those places that I think a lot of people get, I don't know, I won't say upset, but they're confused. And one thing that I think it's always important to remember about overalls in Madden is they've changed in the last couple of years, right? So a couple of years ago, they changed to this archetype setup. And so it's hard to say these are how you rank quarterbacks, because you're really not ranking apples to apples. You're ranking guys, how well each guy does their specific archetype, right? So Lamar Jackson, people are going to look at his accuracies, right, and say, oh, they're not very good. How's he a 91? Well, that's because he's a running quarterback, right? And the running quarterback archetype is going to value things like speed, 96, acceleration, 96, agility, 95, even things like they mentioned today, actually, ball carrier vision, 95. So when you start trying to say, well, I don't see how he's a 91 because he's not great at passing, it's because you're comparing people from different archetypes. Lamar Jackson is the model of the running quarterback here. That archetype was built for this guy. And so, yeah, it's obvious that he's really good at the archetype that he is. Now, if you want to traditionally just drop back and throw it 40 times a game, that's probably not the way to do it. And he's not a 91 if that's what you're looking to do. But if you're looking to utilize his skill set in the grand scheme of playing quarterback here in Madden, 91 makes a lot of sense for this guy.
Deshaun Watson comes in at 90. Personally, I don't really want to talk about Deshaun Watson, but he's still going to be a player that everybody wants to play with in Madden because skill set wise, he's still good. It's just, is he worth being the last quarterback to be in the 90s in Madden in 2021?
Yeah, so 98 break sack. That's the thing I look at here with Watson. So if you're playing with Watson and he's on the Texans, that 98 break sack may come in handy. Their line has had some issues keeping them upright. But at the same time, the 89 throw under pressure is a little bit concerning. I get out there to the play action, 86 play action, the lowest here, the top 10. Maybe a little surprised with that. I think there's some good stats there probably to back that up with his accuracy off play action. You look across the board, though, you see a lot of kind of that tinted green, that yellow. That means he's pretty average relative to a lot of the guys here in the top 10. And I think that's really, when you think about him being in the sixth slot, that's kind of what you expect, right? Not great at anything, not the worst at anything, just kind of top 10, middle of the road.
Josh Allen comes in, number 7, right behind Deshaun Watson. A lot of Bills fans, the second it came out, Bills media, Bills fans, angry that he wasn't in the 90s. It's like, dude, granted, he's improved steadily year over year in his first 3 years. Last year was just incredible. But my thought immediately was, do it again, and you're not having these issues. Like, plain and simple. He still makes some questionable throws, dropped interceptions, things like that. But, and the 99 throw power is nice. But it's not surprising that he's where he is, even though it's upsetting to a lot of people.
Well, so remember, this is a formula, right? And one thing that does weight this formula pretty strongly is awareness. So if you go out there to awareness, Josh Allen sent in an 86, lowest here in the top 10. To your point, right? Sometimes you make some really ill-conceived decisions. If that 86 ended up a 93, right? He's actually pretty comparable to Lamar Jackson. Not as fast, but he's got a better arm. Some of the running statistics, attributes, not as good, but the throwing's pretty similar in a lot of cases. I don't think he's that far off, right? And so some people are really upset about that. But like I said, it's really the awareness. You could crank that awareness up a couple points, all of a sudden he's a 90, and does that make everybody happy all of a sudden? I don't know.
I don't know. I mean, Bills fans should be happy that our punter is not the highest rated player in Madden on our team in Madden anymore. And that was a streak from like 2005 to like 2008.
Well, one thing to think about, though, like 99 throwing power, that's a very hard thing to get. Like, you're not going to get that through normal development, getting those throw power upgrades, right? So he's still a great guy to build around. He's a guy that you can get the throwing accuracies up. So I would almost argue I'd rather have the 99 throwing power than the accuracy stuff because I can get that accuracy stuff. So all said, not a whole lot to be upset about there.
No, the 57 carrying kind of caught me off guard, but I'm like, I think about his fumbling issues. He's very careless with the ball. He tries to do too much rather than just go down when he needs to. He'll try and fight for those extra couple yards, which he drops the ball. If he stops fumbling every other time he goes to run, then maybe that carrying goes up, and that's another thing. Dak Prescott, coming off that gruesome ankle injury, comes in with an 87 overall. I personally think it's right about there. He's the quarterback where if he comes back at the beginning of the season and has 3-4 dominant weeks like we saw at the beginning of the year last year, he's right back up in the 90s. He's a quick mover, I think.
Yeah, this is one that actually I've talked to some Cowboys fans who are actually really happy with that. They felt like in the past he may have been disrespected a little bit. So I think 87 probably does well for him. There were some questions about his awareness. Some people feel like he processes things a little better than that 88. I think that's a fair comment to make. The thing I'll mention here is kind of like what I was talking about a little bit up there with Deshaun Watson, though. You look across the board here. You don't really see anything he does extraordinary, right? Like 91 short accuracy, it's a little below average. 87 medium, 89 deeps,
Yeah, it's
about
just
average.
middle of the pack. Yeah,
right. He's just steady, and I think that's the thing people have to understand is Prescott. He put up some gaudy numbers last year, but like, is he really elite at any one thing? And that's probably what you're seeing here, and just in the way these ratings are broken down.
Ryan Tannehill, or as John Gruden would call him, Ryan Tannehill. He comes in at an 87. This is where I start to get I don't see him and Dak Prescott. Again, different player styles, different builds, archetypes. But I don't see Tannehill from at that same level as a Dak Prescott. I think Tannehill's the product of a system, which great, but I don't see him being the 9th best quarterback in the NFL right now, or in Madden, at least for a franchise mode. If you're going to start that, especially with some of his numbers, his short accuracy, sure, it's a 95, but the throw on the run 87, it's just not. I don't know. I feel like this kind of rating, he's the guy that got maybe the benefit of the fact of who he's playing around more than anybody else.
So I probably like Tannehill better than most people. I think for a lot of people, it's hard to shake his early career in Miami. But when you look at the last 2 years, he's been one of the most efficient guys off play action, right? And you say, well, that's part of the system. You could argue that's a lot of guys in the NFL, right? Like that's Baker Mayfield, that's Kirk Cousins, that's anybody who Shanahan's running out in San Francisco. So, there's a lot of things that go into that. But he is pretty accurate. So I think that 95 short accuracy definitely pulls him up. So when you talk about how does he equal out the Dak Prescott, I think, having that standout skill, right? We talked about Dak not really having a standout skill. That's a standout skill that's going to definitely pull him up a little bit. And then the 92 play action, I would maybe argue that's a little bit lower than it should be. But even still, you get that, you get the short accuracy, throw under pressure. There's a couple stats here that bring him up. And then obviously, if you're looking at him and Dak, the 90 awareness versus 88 came into play. So, that's what I would look at here.
When you be scared? Sorry to interrupt. Should you be scared of that 86 injury?
It depends. How often do you get your quarterback hit? If you get the ball away, maybe not. But if you're gonna take a lot of hits, that's probably a problem.
Last, number 10, Maddie Ice coming in at 85 overall. I feel like we're at a point where he's not a top 10 quarterback at all, and he's just here on his name.
So this is a little bit of a litmus test, right? So you talked about scheme for Ryan Tannehill. Some would argue that Matt Ryan, his career got revived a little bit by Shanahan, and Shanahan left, and then he kind of regressed a little bit. I think he still has elite traits. The 92 medium accuracy is one of those elite traits. I see that. You talked about the guys he's playing around. Well, Julio Jones is gone now. So what does that mean?
Everybody's on Calvin Ridley. That's what that means.
Right. Well, there's a lot that plays here, and well, also Kyle Pitts, right?
Yeah.
But there's a lot that plays here. I think really what you're seeing here with Matt Ryan coming in at the 85, but also that degradation from 99 to 85 just within 10 players, is I think you're seeing that the league has a very congested, what I'd probably call like a third tier, right? I'd say the first tier is really like Mahomes, Brady, Rodgers, maybe Wilson. And then that second tier is that group we're talking about. Then, Wilson, Jackson, Watson, Allen, maybe Dak. And then I think you get into that third tier, which is like that Tannehill, Matt Ryan, and then a bunch of these younger guys, like you're talking about your Justin Herberts or your Joe Burrows, or those kind of guys that you think are up and comers. So I'm sure Matt Ryan being an 85, there may be another couple guys that are 85s or 84s that could have just as easily ended up on this list. But, from statistically speaking, just on this list, like his passing stats are still pretty strong. I'd even argue stronger than a lot of the guys that are above him. Really, what's going to pull him down is all the physical traits. Like this guy is least athletic guy, maybe even, relative to Tom Brady, that you're going to get. So a lot of it will come down to play style for people.
One quarterback, as we wrap this up here, the top 10 quarterback ratings in Madden 22, that I'm surprised, and he might be that one before, obviously we're recording this before the full ratings come out, is a Matt Stafford. He probably might be that one that you could have flipped with a Matt Ryan at this point, but who knows? I mean, I think Matt Stafford, like you get the bad rep about Tannehill being in Miami. Stafford in Detroit is still Detroit.
Yeah, Stafford's an 83. Haven't seen full stats yet, but we did know that he is an 83. So he's right there on the cusp of, you could probably swap him for Matt Ryan, on a couple things, maybe an awareness point or two gets him up there. So that will be really interesting to look when they release full ratings, is just how many guys are between about 85 and 82, 83.
Yeah, and some of those quarterbacks, probably a Ben Roethlisberger falls in that route. A Kirk Cousins falls in there. Baker Mayfield probably falls in there. I know a lot of Browns fans are beyond mad that Baker Mayfield isn't in the top 10, but I mean, his numbers don't really match up with it. And I have another season like last year, you're probably looking at Baker Mayfield entering that top 10 conversation maybe later in the year with roster updates, or definitely by Madden 23.
Yep.
But for now, that's it for the quarterback ratings here in Madden 22. Be sure to subscribe to Sports Gamers Online. Hit that bell so you get everything Madden as it's announced. For the 4 Verts, I'm Mike Straw. We'll talk to you next time.